And if you could give your full attention to the candidates, that would be good. And we're 22 days away from an election, and it's been a long-standing tradition that the candidates for mayor have participated in forums at this event, and hopefully we will have two of them back if there is a runoff for the December 7th election, as we have in the past as well. We have four candidates who are present. Sid Edwards was also invited and opted not to come. But two Republicans are here, and Nathaniel Hearn, first-time office seeker, and Steve Myers, who ran for this office in 2012 and finished behind Kip Holden and Mike Walker. Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome is seeking her third term. She was the number 2 person both in the House of Louisiana and the Senate during a long legislative career. And she is opposed by a fellow Democrat, former State Representative Ted James, who also was a leader and director in the Small Business Administration. Questions only from members of the media today. Each candidate will be permitted a 2-minute opening address, and we also at some point near the end of the debate will have candidates ask each other questions, and since we have 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, the Republicans will ask each other a question and the Democrats will ask each other a question. Bill Ryan is the timekeeper. There he is, so candidates can follow his lead as to how much time you have for each answer. 1-minute responses as well. And I think we're ready to go. So we'll start in alphabetical order, and I think Broome is first in the alphabet for the candidates, and then after the mayor president, we will hear, I've got to get my alphabet. I think Nathaniel Hearn is second, Ted James second or third, and Steve Myers will address us fourth. And if you ask a question, try to get as close to the front of the room where the candidates can hear you as possible, and please give your media affiliation when you pose your question. So here we go.
I want to thank the Press Club for offering this opportunity once again to have a conversation about the upcoming race. You know, 8 years, a lot can happen during that time. And I will tell you that as I reflect over the past 8 years, we have certainly had some unprecedented challenges. But on the other hand, we have had some historic successes and achievements. We've had the first stormwater master plan that was accomplished. We had the largest infrastructure project in the history of Baton Rouge and East Baton Rouge Parish, Move EBR. We've had a strong economy even after a pandemic. We now have the strongest economy in the state of Louisiana. We have attracted industries, including Amazon Fulfillment Center, with over 1,400 jobs. The work that we've done, historic on our stormwater management. So historic that you now have a 20% reduction in your flood insurance. We've moved forward as it's related to our fiscal management. Our fiscal management now has given us a AAA bond rating. That's outstanding, and that impacts our city in a very positive way. And so while I've just shared our successes and achievements with you, I want you to know that I have a big vision for this city and parish. One that includes a new river center development, one that includes a riverfront development from Southern University all the way out to Nicholson Drive. So hopefully we'll have an opportunity to discuss the vision today. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Nathaniel Hearn, Conservative Republican candidate for East Baton Rouge Parish Mayor President. To start off, I'd like to thank the Press Club for having us here today and giving us this moment to be present and answer questions and speak with the public. I'd also like to take a second to thank Champaign Roundtree, independent candidate for mayor president, for a quote provided after the mayoral forum last week, where she said that it was unfair to voters to not have all candidates answer questions present for the Baton Rouge Area Chamber mayoral debate. I would like to agree with that statement. I think that was rather unfair to not have all of us present, and I do appreciate being here with a third candidate that I haven't had the honor of speaking around yet, and to be back present with Mayor President Broome and candidate Mr. Ted James. That being said, I also would like to address the fact I find it rather unfortunate that the endorsed Republican candidate for Mayor President has not voted in 8 years, has not voted for the current president, has not voted against the mayor he is running against. I find that to be a little strange, and would also like to address the fact that a little before Coach was chosen to run or chose to run, I had met with somebody else within the party to actually tell them, hey, you have a Republican candidate here ready to do the job that's trained to be here. That being said, I do again thank the Press Club for having me here today, and I look forward to how the rest of this forum turns out.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's such an honor to be back before you. I'm here as members of the Press Club, had an opportunity to speak with you several times as a legislator and as a member as a regional administrator for the Small Business Administration. It is always an honor to have candid, transparent, and honest conversations with members of the media. My name is Ted James. For those of you I have not had an opportunity to meet, I think I've shaken every hand in here today. I'm a Baton Rouge native, extremely excited about the opportunity to bring to my hometown what I had an opportunity to not only witness but build all across the country for the past 2 years as a regional administrator with the SBA. I stand here enjoying support all across this parish, endorsed by my party, but also endorsed by several former colleagues in the legislature. And I think it speaks volumes as we are involved in such an us versus them national climate. But my campaign has shown the ability in East Baton Rouge Parish that we're stronger together. And I know some folks want to use that as a liability, but also think that it's an enormous strength for a candidate to be able to stand before you with a vision that is accepted, shared, and a level of excitement on both ends of the political spectrum and also across every city in our unique parish. And I look forward to engaging with you on the issues to bring Baton Rouge from where she is today to the Baton Rouge that we all deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't want to be the person who comes to dinner and then complains about the food, not literally, but I'm glad to see that we're making some progress, at least on the way that campaign forums are held. This 1 minute thing has got to go. Next time around, we all need to get together, maybe have one on crime, one on infrastructure, one on vision, one on something else. That said, I'm going to have an administration of competence and accountability. I'm all for vision. There's plenty of vision entities in Baton Rouge, but we need the solid foundation. We all know the issues. We agree on them. Blight, litter, out-migration, St. George, garbage, education, roads, traffic, flooding, drainage, and I believe morality and teamwork are needed. We don't want this St. George thing to go 10 more years. We got to figure it out. I've got some ideas. We don't need a 10-year plan until we take care of the first 3 problems that we have, and that's crime, crime, and crime. Whether it's more policemen, higher paid policemen, or whatever, we can build a beautiful economic situation, but nobody's going to walk there if they're afraid of being shot, afraid of being robbed on the streets. What we need to do is have the administration focus on what the core mission of government is, which is essentially our infrastructure and our lifestyle where people can feel that they will become the ambassadors of Baton Rouge to handle out-migration. Come to Baton Rouge, it's a great place. Now all we hear is people talking about leaving. So we have some problems that we need to work together on. basically, we need to build a city that our football team will be proud of. And we can do that. We're going to rescue Baton Rouge, and day by day, we're going to have consistency and competence without complacency, where we take care of the basic problems that we need for our city to run effectively.
So we're open to questions if you have questions, and I'm sure you will as we move along. And to make things easy, I think on the first round we'll start with Mr. Myers, and then Mayor Broom, Representative James, and Nathaniel Hearn, and then we'll start with Mayor Broom and do it that way on the next round. But there is a dispute ongoing right now about funding for St. George that goes back to 2019. The mayor has stated that this is a request from the new city that is not appropriate nor feasible, and we certainly will hear from her about why she believes this to be the case, but I'd like for the other candidates to respond as to what they think and how they would do if they were in the mayor's shoes. So, Steve, you're first.
If I understand the question, it's about taxes for St. George. Yeah, well, I read the mayor's offer to St. George, and I thought it was one of the best documents that I've read. Very to the point, brought up the legal issues. I guess as a lawyer, I like reading that stuff. And I got to the point where it said St. George wants taxes back to 2019, and the first thing that popped in my mind, kind of a guy that reads the footnotes, is like, well, wait a minute, didn't they get services for that? So the answer is that we need to get this thing solved and move forward. Unlike what was stated, I didn't say Baton Rouge will need new taxes. The question at this chamber was, do you think, I was for new taxes, do you think that you would need new taxes? Well, if you lose whatever number of dollars to St. George, that money needs to be replaced unless there's a dollar for dollar relationship between the money that goes out and the cost of the services. And with economy of scale, we know that's not possible. So anyway, I have a different answer for a long-term vision, but for that particular question, I think they should get it from the date of incorporation when the issue was finally resolved.
So there's no doubt that I have been involved in the discussion of St. George more than anyone else here. As you know, we are presently at the negotiation table. My friend here just mentioned that he had read the memorandum that we had sent to St. George, and that was returned to us. Make no mistake about it, as the mayor president, as the president for this parish, my goal is to make sure that we do not, we being the city parish, incur any liability in this process. Secondly, my goal is to make sure that we retain our employees. We have over 4,000 city parish employees. Retention is very important. And thirdly, for everyone in this room, it is important that we continue with a significant level of basic services and that we avoid any tax increases.
I think you'll hear a consistent theme in that none of us want this fight to continue to prolong, and it's time for us to govern as a parish with all of the uniqueness that we have. The first thing we have to do is look at our budget, right? The things that we are paying for that we no longer need, we need to get rid of those things. I will start auditing every single contract. Again, the things that we don't need, get rid of those things. And the duplication of services, look at unfunded positions that we budget for but haven't funded in several years. I think that one of the most important things is we do not interrupt basic services. The current administration has a challenge right now of maintaining basic services. I travel all across this parish and they will tell you today, without losing significant revenues, that the grass isn't getting cut, the streets aren't getting swept, and literally getting picked up today without losing a huge chunk of our tax revenue. So for me, it's all about auditing every single dollar and spending those appropriately and making sure that we get the basics right.
Representative, what about the 2019? Do you think those funds should be paid for by city council?
No, I agree with both the mayor and Mr. Myers in that, since 2019, City Parish has provided services, right? The back and forth, the only people that benefit from the continued back and forth are the lawyers that get paid hourly. It's time for us to get an agreement signed. The mayor has said several times that the agreement will be signed by election day, and I hope that's the case, and it benefits all of us. At the Delta Sigma Theta Forum, we talked about it, and the mayor said that the agreement will be signed by election day. If it doesn't, of course, I'm saying that we all want the agreement to get signed there. We know that you're working extremely hard, but we'll post the clip from that if you all need to see it. But at the end of the day, I think that we all, Mayor, we appreciate your service, and we want the agreement to be signed as soon as possible.
I can confirm I as well want that agreement to be signed as soon as possible, and it should run from the date of incorporation. Baton Rouge has an interest in keeping services provided for its community up to par with what the community wants and is looking for. But before we have any new taxes or anything like that, or even talk about the idea of how we're going to be offsetting that cost, we need to look at a zero-based budget for East Baton Rouge Parish. So before we bring anything new in, we actually have accountability for every single cent that is spent. I think all of us want to see a transparent government where we know where our money is going before we increase or ask for any new funds. That being said, I am a resident of St. George. I have an interest in St. George, but I also have an interest in Baton Rouge. I grew up in Baton Rouge. I have been a young person to leave Baton Rouge for new opportunity. We need to ensure that this new town of St. George, though it is incorporated, people against it, for it, all that it still is somehow effective to work seamlessly with the Baton Rouge that is already in existence and our other cities within our city parish. Thank you very much.
Come this way.
Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank,
Okay, your name and affiliation, please.
my name is Belinda Parker Brown with Louisiana United International. I'm national and international press. I would like to thank the Press Club for having this forum today, and I have a question.
Thank you.
Before my question, I want to say that I feel very unsafe here in the state of Louisiana, especially as an African American. Do you think the public, this is my question, do you think the public benefited from the release of the Ronald Reagan's video? And if so,
All right. That's your question, right?
Yeah, that's my
Okay,
question.
well, I don't think we need, I don't
And if
think,
so, withholding the Louisiana State Police Lieutenant Premise Galore.
all right, you're getting into a multi-part question that we really don't have time for, but it's a legitimate question about the Ronald Reagan incident of a few years ago, which was not in Baton Rouge, but what about that incident and how it affects Baton Rouge and I guess crime as a whole? Mayor, you're first up. Thank you.
I certainly believe that the release of that video added transparency to the process. It was tragic what happened, to say the least. I will tell you on a local level, and I don't know if state police operate like this, but certainly on a local level with our Baton Rouge Police Department under my administration prior, our officers did not have body cameras to have that type of information that the public could have access to. So I would say that the advent of body cameras in our administration is certainly a big plus. I would also say that it has been a big plus to have conversations between our law enforcement officials as well as our residents to see how we could close the gap, especially when it comes to issues around de-escalation, those policies, and we worked on that during my first term in office. Thank you.
100%, and I say that as the person that pushed on our then governor and colonel of state police to provide that video. I sat in a room with the family. I sat in a room with the mother of Ronald Green and his sister when they saw the video for the first time. For me, transparency is something that you offer all the time, not after you get caught. I will proudly say that I stood in the legislature and authored multiple bills around accountability for police officers when there's misconduct. So also as chairman of the Black Caucus, I stood and wrote a letter to the federal government to issue a patterns and practice investigation into what we were seeing in state police. So my entire career has been based on fighting for those issues and ensuring accountability, and also ensuring that there's a level of accountability in terms of officer misconduct, because I think it breeds public trust, right? You need to see that level of accountability every single time, and that will be my commitment with dealing with law enforcement in the future as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for asking a question about the Ronald Green video. That's actually something that I personally have been interested in following the news progression on since my time at the Southern University Law Center for getting my Juris Doctorate. I definitely think the public benefited from the release of that video. You know, we're all subjugated to police action. We need to have accountability within our police departments. That being said, I also think it was unfortunate. Well, I think the whole situation was unfortunate that at the same time, current Governor John Bell Edwards was pardoning Homer Plessy to take press away from all the issues regarding the video of Mr. Green's death. It discredits the seriousness of that event. When something like that happens, the public has a right to be aware of it, and I think that's something that any public official has the ability to get involved in, or at least make waves about, so that the general public has an idea of the people protecting them are actually out to serve them. So thank you for bringing that as a question.
As I mentioned earlier, we will have an administration of competence and accountability. That includes our police officers that are under our control. In that particular situation, I'm a former journalist myself, or once a journalist, always a journalist. I ask all kinds of questions and poke and probe. I think people have a right to know, but there's always in context as well. I'm not saying I'm for or against. I trust the people who make the decisions. We have to be able to trust the people who make the decisions. If you had a video of a terrible rape, would you really think that that would be something that you'd want going public? So I don't know the details about the family involvement. I do know that in journalism school, our Professor Featherston, who the young boy in Mississippi that was the mama said, "I want the coffin open." Emmett, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting to that age. Emmett Till. So the point is that depending on who's making the decision, we need to take that in context and let the public have a right to know, but at the same time consider the other people involved.
I have another concern. You know, withholding a video that have all sorts of racial slurs and, you know, just outrageous comments against African American people. That video is being withheld right now with the Louisiana State Police trooper that made those accusations or made those comments.
All right, thank you. Any other questions related to this or something else? Yes, sir. What's your name and your media affiliation, sir?
With WRKF. I just have one for Mayor Broom.
Well, this will be for all the candidates, but are you first up this time? Or is Ted's first up this time? So.
Well, I guess specific plans ahead of loss in tax revenue for St. George. I know, James, you mentioned you'd audit every department. I guess I'm curious, which departments or programs you would start with. And then just zero-based budgeting, I guess strategies. And then Mayor Broom, you mentioned...
All right, well, look, we can't have multi-part questions. We got to go one at a time. But let's start with the budget. Representative James.
I think I know the essence of what you're asking. Every single department, right? Across the board, there are things that we are spending resources on and we shouldn't be spending. There are things that we are spending resources multiple times to address one singular issue. I speak a lot about funded vacancies. It's a practice that the state government did and local government does as well. If we are funding positions that haven't been filled, we need to eliminate those to minimize the loss of revenue once the agreement is signed. I speak a lot about how we are going to do a better job of pulling down resources from state and federal government. That will also help us to address some of our vital services, and I plan to have a very detailed and aggressive East Baton Rouge Parish agenda. I see Representative Freiberg. I'm going to be working her and her colleagues extremely hard next year once I'm elected to pull resources down for East Baton Rouge Parish, like other municipalities have done a much better job of doing that than East Baton Rouge.
I'm going to speak a little bit on the zero-based budgeting and accountability within the city parish government. When you look at zero-based budgeting, you're looking at starting the year out fiscally from, let's say you're starting at $0 and what you're going to need money for and what you're going to need to calculate for that you're going to be expending throughout that year. With that being said, we also have some things with our records that it's very difficult for the local taxpayers to be able to see where their records are, where their money is going in those taxes and where certain money is going for different projects. With a zero-based budget, as Mayor President, I plan to sit down with the Metro Council and every other party that's involved in planning that out the new projects for the year and seeing exactly where that money is going based on a model similar to our BREC program. Since something within our city is operating for 40 years very successfully, we can model something after that, especially since it's based on the split government system that we have in place. But we do need that accountability, and that comes from the Mayor President and the Metro Council. I think we all should have the right to be able to review our documents.
I think I was the first one to mention, well, really not the first one, Jimmy Carter, or maybe before, but zero-based budgeting is not new, and it should be done every year. Most businesses do it. I remember LSU stories where they say if you don't spend your money before the end of the year, they'll take it away from you and give it to someone else. I thought that was always unfair, because if you did a good job, you got penalized. But it may be true. Although the parks and the libraries are separate entities, taxing entities, they seem to be doing a decent job with their money. I'm not saying we take it away, but I'm saying we don't necessarily keep adding on to it. Regarding the St. George thing, to make a correction, if you will, or at least a clarification, when I say date of the corporation final judgment, I guess I think of warrant. I don't think they should get 3 years worth of tax benefits for services that they received. I think I covered that one.
So I think your question started out about St. George and how we would manage that. And actually, I am working on our budget right now for 2025. And you will see that very soon. prior to the advent of the Supreme Court judgment on St. George, my staff, our finance department, and all of our departments have had very significant, specific discussions on how we can make budget adjustments. But at the end of the day, since I have been mayor president, we've always had a balanced budget, and we'll have one for 2025. Will we have to demonstrate perhaps tightening our belt? Absolutely we will. But our budget has been so great, fiscally responsible. As I said when I started off, we still, with the St. George, have a AAA bond rating.
Want me to go twice?
Robert, what?
Robert Burns with Sound Off, Louisiana. Do you, given that you all feel like the Ronald Green video release was beneficial, do you also feel the release of the Baton Rouge City police officers who arrested Prentice Ballou, during which they were disrespected and allegedly had slurs uttered at them, should also be released to the public?
Okay, Ted, you went first last time, so I think Nathaniel.
Mr. Burns, yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we're Republican, Democrat, black, white, none of that matters. As I said in a previous forum, at the end of the day, the taxes don't care about, you know, what your sexual orientation is, what color you are. They're going to come after us equally. Same thing can be said for the police. If something happens with the police department, citizens have a right to be able to request the information and see it. That's a basic freedom that I think we're all afforded. I think there would be benefit to releasing video from the Baton Rouge Police Department, and I don't think any police department should be held above the standards that we would come to expect as citizens.
Thank you.
I was going to say, I'm not sure the line of question around where it's going, that we're trying to create race-based issues again. Actually, it all matters, because if you look at demographics of voters, there is a very high correlation between race and party and how people vote, which is why for years I have promoted that when you register to vote, you shouldn't have they gotta identify you, I'm all for that, but if we took race and we took gender and we took party off of the ballot and off of the voter registration, the political consultants would have to think a lot harder and maybe focus themselves just on issues rather than the fact that the correlation between race and party directly come out and affect the results of an election. Just go back for years, look at Milligan Central in the judges race in 2023. No party, no race, nothing on the ballot. People will at least have to ask someone who you're voting for and why, and you might get to the issues.
Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to repeat the question because I didn't hear it.
The question is that given that you felt like the Ronald Green video release was beneficial to the public, would you also be supportive of the release of the Prentice Ballou arrest approximately 9 weeks ago by 4 Baton Rouge City police officers, all of whom were black, but who were treated disrespectfully with racial slurs being uttered? That's it. That's
No editorial comments, please.
well,
Okay.
okay.
I got it. I'm talking a lot about videos and body camera today, and the purpose of that is to certainly share and be transparent with information, regardless of the color of someone's skin. And so, yeah, our process is to certainly release body camera footage, and I would be in agreement with that.
Transparency is transparency, and we have to be very open in how we communicate these issues with the public. You know, I would have to agree with Mr. Myers, and that's why I'm excited to enjoy support from both sides of the political spectrum. I certainly believe that And I said this, the way I campaign is the way I'm going to govern. So being able to stand here proudly with support on both sides, I believe, is what we need more going forward in this parish.
John?
Yeah, John Rapolo from Fox 44, NBC 33. Thank you for having us. Real quick, Jim, not an editorial comment, but I interviewed a political analyst last week about this race, and he said that this is the hottest race in the state of Louisiana, that local race. Okay, so here's my question. I would like each one of you to briefly explain your platform and what will you do, pledge to do, if you are put in office.
All right. Pete?
I mentioned the overall theme, trademark theme of the campaign, Rescue Baton Rouge, administration of competence and accountability. We will not be complacent. We will be transparent, and we will get the basic core mission that government is supposed to achieve accomplished. We will have, I'm going to hire a team of bird dogs. One of them's going to be the road czar, and they're going to get every road in town, potholes filled, so we're not all getting front end alignments every 6 months. The litter lady might be right back there, might be the one. I don't know if she's looking for a full-time job, but it's not that hard. I mentioned the other day that citizens need a little responsibility too, not throw trash out of the window. But those are the things we have to just accomplish first. Housing, affordable housing, crime, of course, is the number one thing. More police officers, and the goal of a highest paid police, city police in the state. Again, the time to go through an entire campaign, if you will, is very difficult, but we need to start there before we get people very excited about new developments that the private sector it's left better to the private sector.
So I'm very glad that you asked that question, because that gives me an opportunity to speak very briefly about the vision. I tell you, I have talked to young professionals for the past 2 weeks, and all of them have shared with me why they love Baton Rouge. And I certainly believe that the $1.8 million that we gave to the Chamber for the Better in BTR campaign speaks to our ability to retain our best and brightest. But I want to go beyond that and make sure that we include them in placemaking. I want to make sure that they're included as we continue to evolve the vision for riverfront development, which will start at the bluffs of Southern University, the most scenic view of our Mississippi River, one of our greatest assets. Then go downtown, where we will continue to work on a walkable community and bike paths. Then we will go out to Nicholson and curate some of the property that the city parish owns there. I believe that the possibilities for Baton Rouge are strong, so strong that we can become the best mid-sized city in America.
Specific plans. Number one, public safety is the most important issue in this community. We have 11 different law enforcement agencies. We have to break down the silos and force those agencies to work more collaboratively to address violent crime. Of course, more police, better pay, better technology. We can't underscore the social issues that drive crime. We have to have both conversations at the same time, not just the law enforcement side. Jobs, right? My plan is to make employment more service-driven and less compliance-driven. Economic development, we talk about the success of Amazon, but we can't underscore the fact that we lost walk-ons and Republic Finance. I'm going to employ an economic development professional. I'm going to pull Brett back to the table and try to get that agreement signed. When you have a success like Amazon, you don't disband a team. Right now, we don't have a single person leading economic development in the mayor's office. That changed. The federal grants coordinator, I plan to bring one of those on to make sure that we're better steward of the tax dollars. HUD dollars, early childhood dollars with Head Start. We aren't being a good steward of those tax dollars. You all report on it all the time On April 8th of 2022, there was a report about the dollars from 2010 to 2022 that we either went unspent or misused from HUD. That was a problem that this administration inherited and we hadn't corrected it yet. And East Baton Rouge Parish Agenda, working with the legislators, pulling resources down, a housing plan, a real blight map, and plans to build up Baton Rouge. I'm excited that after 2 years, I saw an announcement that they're looking for a leadership now. It's been sitting vacant with interim leadership for 2 years. We got to get good people on that board and make sure that we're working with the legislators and the federal government to ensure that they have the resources to revitalize not just North Baton Rouge, but other underinvested areas in this parish.
As I've said previously, my name is Nathaniel Hearn, and I am here to dare to change Baton Rouge. That is my campaign slogan, and that is my goal here. My first plan would be to slash our duplicate bureaucracy, starting with a zero-based budget. We do not need any new taxes unless we have accountability within our local government to see where our money is already going. We need to put our local budget on a diet so we actually have some sort of clue as to how our money is being spent. I've talked before about consolidating Baton Rouge Police Department underneath the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office. That would not only be financially effective in cutting the cost of our local police programs, but also give them better resources in which to catch criminals from petty criminals, to focus on stopping the lower-based crime before any other crime develops, and to actually focus on the crime that has already been committed. And I would like to also focus on our infrastructure projects so that we have an ability to take care of the flooding that already takes place that we can't do anything about, but to address the flooding that is still happening so that we have the state we can be proud to call sportsman's paradise, and we don't lose the natural resources within our own community from our own poor actions. Unlike Coach Sid Edwards, I actually have voted. I'm sorry, Mayor President Broom, but I have voted against you. I hate to say that. I am here to make a difference, to dare to change. This is our home. I'm invested in our home. I would appreciate your vote and support and look forward to any sort of help that I can be able to provide for our local community.
Liam?
Yes, Liam Combs, WAFB. I was hoping each one of the candidates could talk about addressing the affordable housing crisis in the parish, and what specific plan would you have for increasing affordability?
Well, we have already started working on a housing plan for East Baton Rouge Parish, and that includes certainly housing advocates as well as people from the development side. I will tell you that we have implemented over 1,400 affordable housing units under my administration. Actually, we are in the process of assisting other individuals with projects that we believe are significant when it comes to affordable housing, specifically under domestic violence is what I was thinking of. Recently we had a YWCA project that we were a major partner in addition to a faith-based component. And now that project, we've cut the ribbon on it, and now we are housing, affordable housing for victims of domestic violence and their families. So as we talk about affordable housing, we will certainly continue to increase the number that we've already added to our commerce, but we cannot ignore significant achievements like our Choice Neighborhood Project that is a perfect example and only one of a few in the United States of America.
Thank you. I look forward to, we talked a lot in this campaign about the development of a housing plan, and that plan that is in development now, once elected, I look forward to taking what the Broom administration, whatever they present during transition, and adding to that. The most important thing we have to do is be a better steward of the HUD dollars that we receive, right? I mention this very often in this campaign about the story over, an 11-year period of how we either didn't spend it correctly or didn't spend it at all, HUD dollars. We have to do that. That's why I talk a lot about bringing on a federal grants coordinator that helps us to do those things. down payment assistance. This administration has done significant strides with rental assistance. I think that those are great. But you also have to look at down payment assistance. There are other mayors that have down payment assistance, $25,000 for law enforcement professionals, for teachers, for public workers. I think that we can do some of those things in addition to when we talk about increasing pay for law enforcement officers. We could pull down these federal dollars to use some of these things for down payment assistance. I want to look at more single family and not just complexes, right? When we talk about really developing North Baton Rouge, it has to be in concert with the plan here in East Baton Rouge Parish. It seems like the projects are being driven by the developers and not the folks that work in the housing space, and that changes under my leadership.
So while affordable housing is not one of the main focuses of my campaign, as I said previously, with crime and all that being a major focus, I believe affordable housing starts with the money that a person already has, and we as elected, well, hopefully elected leaders within our government have an opportunity or a responsibility to be stewards of our citizens' money. If we talk about affordable housing, we need to ask, is there something we can do to be able to cut the spending that people have to pay the government? Looking at that, I believe that ending, certain taxes, certain streams of tax revenue for our local government to be double dipping into people's money, that is a big part of this as well. We need to focus on the things that we already have in place and be able to take care of what we have so that we can be able to provide some better things in the future to a growing community.
Thank you. I know what you mean by affordable housing. I've never liked that term because housing has to be affordable for everyone. I know people in million-dollar houses that have a hard time, and I know people in public housing that have a hard time. The fact of the matter is that a lot of that is affected by factors that are other than just, quote, housing, like the economy. If you didn't notice that most people's property taxes, I'm in the property business, so I hear this every day. There's a couple of factors. If your electricity, the customer pays for everything. When property taxes go up, when the cost of maintenance goes up, when you can't put a roof on except double the price of 4 years ago, you can't plan for economic changes in the future. It's not the companies that get hurt or even the landlords. Ultimately, it's the tenants until you reach the point where they just can't pay the rent, and then you have a real big problem. But it's homeowners as well. When I offer properties to tenants to purchase, they can't afford the down payment, and their note would actually be cheaper than the rent. So we need a housing, and the realtors, we got all these thousands of realtors in town that are experts in this. They need to be brought into the picture to try to figure out how we're going to do it. Again, there's got to be something on a smaller scale than just building $400 million buildings where, what Mr. James said, in whether it's South Downs or St. George or other places where there's a way to use some of these grants and all that reach not just the very poor or the very rich, but the middle class. I'm as concerned about them as anyone. When people look to rent a house now, though, the first two questions they ask is, does it have an alarm? Does it have cameras? So I get back again to say that crime is really the #1 issue in this campaign.
We're running short on time, so we will have the candidates ask questions of each other, and the two Republicans will ask questions of one another, and the two Democrats will start with the two Republicans. 30-second question, 1 minute answer from each of you. And Nathaniel, you're first in the alphabet, so you go first to ask Mr. Myers a question, and likewise.
Well, Mr. Myers, the only question I have for you would actually be, do you think Coach Sid Edwards is a qualified candidate to be the Republican endorsed candidate?
Do I answer from here?
Oh, get up here.
That's an interesting question because this morning I heard something, I think it was on public radio, about candidate qualities. They were talking about Reagan and Clinton and various others. And the most important quality was likability. It wasn't how many facts you could remember. If so, we should elect Jim Inkster. It was about likability. And Sid is very likable. I like all the candidates because when I say I'm in it to win it, but I'm also in it to catalyze the debate, if you will. I want to see the things that need to be done, and the priorities done for the general welfare, not just for special interests. So to answer your question, I was going to ask of Sid that if he was only doing it because Woody Jenkins pushed him out, and Woody's actually going to be the guy behind the scenes who's doing this, that maybe he should leave the race, throw me his endorsement, and then I think we're going to have a Republican candidate in the runoff with you, Mayor. Yeah, and along the same lines, by some strange possibility, if you don't make the runoff, because I think you'll be in it, if you don't make the runoff, do you intend to endorse a candidate? Because what I'm hearing on the street is that you are in order to get out and then endorse one of the candidates for the general election.
Sure.
Number one, I addressed this with a post from Robert over there. That is not the first time I've heard that. I've got an American flag tattooed on my right arm. I believe in this country, I believe in our government, I believe in this state. You have somebody here with, I'm sorry, a fire lit somewhere. I'm rather offended that people don't think a 30-year-old can do this. It's kind of what we're taught to do, to grow up, to be productive members of society and get out there and vote. Why the hell would I drop out?
Since we're going alphabetically, the mayor will ask Representative James a question, and then Ted James will ask Mayor President Sharon Westenberg a question. So here we go.
Here we go. Mr. James, you talked a lot about your view of the budget. So my question for you is, specifically, what service impacts would be realized through your budget reductions?
My plan is to minimize those service impacts. I think that when we look at the fact that we are going to lose a significant part of our budget, the budget that if the council passes before I'm sworn in, of course I'll look at the budget that you presented and make necessary changes. Contracts. We know in particular with Healthy VR and Safe Over Healthy, I'll be looking at some of those contracts. As we know, some of those have been kind of going out with no real accountability. We're also looking at, again, adding and working with our legislative delegation to help with any shortfalls, making sure that we are able to pull down state and federal help as other mayors have been aggressively doing over the past 8 years.
And you have a question for the mayor.
Mayor, murders are up 22%. Overdoses are up. The chief recently said that we don't have a gang problem. And I think in many of your ads, we've talked about that Baton Rouge is a safer community. My specific question is, do you agree with the chief? Do we have a gang problem or not?
Before I answer the gang problem question, I'll just tell you so you will know this for your frame of reference, but Safe, Hopeful, Healthy is only 0.7% of the budget. So, law enforcement officials have told me consistently, whether it's the chief or whether it's part of the public safety partnership where we have all law enforcement officials at the table. The definition of a gang has a different connotation and federal connotation and definition to it. Most of the law enforcement officials that I have talked to prefer to say that we have specific groups. I personally think that whether you say gang or group, to the citizens of this community, it's all about having a safe community. And I do agree that as I continue as mayor, we will continue to lean in on making sure that we make this community one where everyone feels safe, where they can thrive and prosper.
Can we have a round of applause for the candidates? Thank you for coming. The election's in 22 days. I hope everybody lives anywhere you are, but will vote. But if you live in this particular place, vote in this election for the candidate of your choice. And we'll be back next week. Until then, stay tuned.